Dr. Saravanamuttu, welcome.
Thank you.
The SLPP recorded a huge victory with 145 seats, just 5 seats short of a two-thirds majority in the parliamentary elections. Was this big win expected?
Well, certainly the win was expected, though the scale of the victory, getting this close to a two-thirds majority and effectively doing so because they can put together the 5 or 6 more seats from their allies in parliament, I don't think it was necessarily. So it's a major sort of affirmation in the SLPP, and it's going to have to serve them in particular good stead for the next 5 years because the opposition is in shambles.
Can you explain the makeup of the organisation and how the People's Freedom Alliance Party fits in?
Well, basically, it's a party. The SLPP is a party that has been created by Mahinda Rajapaksa, the former president and current prime minister. And the party owes its allegiance to the dynasty. They basically moved out with the local organization of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and all the organizational apparatus and created a party of their own. And as far as the SLPP is concerned, it's unfettered by any notion of legacy or of any other family dynasty. It is the Rajapaksas and Rajapaksas alone. And so the chairperson of the party is Professor G.L. Pires, the current Minister of Education, a very strong Rajapaksa loyalist, and all three, particularly Basil Rajapaksa, who is not in parliament because he cannot stand for election as a dual national, he is the real brains behind the whole organization of the SLPP.
What is the most significant aspect of this huge win in your eyes?
Well, the most significant aspect of it is that Sri Lanka, for better or for worse, has, since independence, operated on the notion that it is a country based on the notion of unity in diversity, of many peoples coming together to form the polity of Sri Lanka. The Rajapaksas are putting the singular Buddhist, that is the identity of the majority community, giving it primacy above all other identities. That's one. Secondly, they're doing this, particularly Gotabaya Rajapaksa is doing this with a strong military mindset. Apart from the established government of the day, there are a whole lot of task forces that have been set up, which have been populated by people with a mindset. So it's authoritarian, it's majoritarian, and it's also got a large dose of militarism in it as well.
Do you expect the Constitution to be amended this term, and what process will be followed?
Well, they will use their two-thirds majority to make whatever amendments. I don't think we will get a new constitution or get constitutional amendments that would require a two-thirds majority plus a referendum. I think they will consider that far too disruptive. So I think what will happen is that the 19th Amendment, the amendment passed by the previous government, which ensures that power passes to the Prime Minister, reverses the balance of power of powers in favor of the Prime Minister. I think all of those will be amended. And the independent commissions that were set up, that too would be amended. The time bar, the term limits on holding the presidency, that too will be amended.
Why is it seen to be a good thing to increase the president's power at the expense of the government's?
Well, this is the thing, is that this is the notion that we have in Sri Lanka of strong, decisive leadership. And given that we won the war against the LTTE, given that we had the horrendous carnage of the Easter Sunday bombings in 2019, and the absolute vacillation and indecisiveness and disunity of the last government, strong leadership seems to be the order of the day.
What other major changes do you see for domestic policy and foreign policy then?
So domestic policy will be very much this assertion of this identity. It'll come in all sorts of forms in the educational system, all of that. Also, I think there is going to be, and there has been a task force that has been set up on ensuring that there will be a law-abiding, righteous, and disciplined society, plus looking at the archaeological aspects of the eastern province, which is Sri Lanka, as truly multi-ethnic province, in addition to the western province. So that will come through the domestic side. On the foreign side, of course, I think if we do not succeed and if we do not accept the conditionalities that will be set by the IMF and the Western powers on the economic front, we will fall back once more into the arms of the Chinese. The economic dimension is going to be the most crucial.
What do you see for the China-Sri Lanka relations? Will there be any further financing from China or for maybe development projects?
Well, this is certainly what we would want. We would want for more money for development projects from the Chinese. As to whether they're going to bankroll us to that extent, I'm not sure. But I certainly think that there will be some money on offer. Some money, perhaps not the whole amount, but some.
The SJB got 54 seats. Can they be much of an opposition?
Well, I mean, they could. I mean, I think it depends very much on the commitment and the ability of the members of parliament to mount that opposition. I mean, we've had spirited oppositions in Sri Lanka's parliamentary history where the opposition has been, reduced to 6 or 7 seats and in some cases 2 or 3. So I don't think the numbers as such is the issue. The SJB ran a platform which was a sort of Rajapaksa light. They didn't really come up with a proper alternative. And so I think they need to look at that. There's no, I don't think there is a lot of popular traction with the notion of coming out as a Rajapaksa light.
Can you tell us about the Centre for Policy Alternatives and what major areas of work you have recently undertaken?
Well, we're basically a think tank, a public policy think tank. We work on issues of governance and conflict resolution from a human rights perspective. So we work on it through research as well as advocacy, because we believe that policy alternatives that we identify need to be advocated in public and with the opinion and decision makers, or else they gather dust in a show. We therefore work on constitutional reform, legal reform. We take cases to court. We take the government to court on public interest litigation, on impending legislation, as well as fundamental rights cases. We have 3 civic media websites, the most famous being Ground Views, the English version. We also have Social Indicator, which does polling, as well as the Center for Monitoring Election Violence, which monitors all the national elections. And so we did the monitoring of the last presidential election and the general election as well.
How do you see the future for Sri Lanka at the moment?
Well, as I said, a lot depends on how the government deals with the economic situation that it has inherited. If it is going to be sort of fairly authoritarian and ham-fisted in the response, if it is going to call out the army to establish discipline, as it were, and law and order, if and when people come out and demonstrate, then I think we are going to get into a very unstable situation in which human rights violations will be rife and the backlash against the government will be particularly severe.
Interesting times ahead. How's Sri Lanka at the moment, just quickly handling COVID-19?
Yeah, we have had success as far as that's concerned. We have 2,800 odd cases and 11 deaths.
Those figures are very encouraging.
We've done well.
Doctor, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Bad line, but we certainly understood what's happening. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.